Good evening, race fans, and welcome to another lovely Sunday morning here with Old Bastards Racing League in the Metro Ford Cup Series. We are here today at Texas Motor Speedway. My name is Mason Heimbaugh with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action here today, 1080p, 60 frames a second, as drivers get their qualifying underway here, getting themselves ready for the start of today's events. Texas Motor Speedway going to pose a lot of challenges for drivers here today, being that, frankly, this can be one of those tracks where if you are not on the top of your game, you can find yourself down the field in a matter of seconds. At least in my experience. Maybe I'm just a bad driver. But with that out of the way here, folks, let's take a look at what some of the drivers are doing here today as far as qualifying times are concerned. Taking a look here right now, Michael Watts in the 84 car, making his way around the track, heading into turn number 1, is 5th place at this moment on the timing tower with a 30.74 as his best time. Eddie Jones, the 14 machine, going to be the driver to beat here by 5/100ths of a second. The 14 machine showing his dominance here at Texas Motor Speedway, with Dwayne Mcarthur holding into that second place spot. Dakota Pischke rounding out our top 3 here. So a 30.50 is the time to beat if you want to get yourself into the top 3. And so far, it seems a lot of drivers outside of that pole position for the start of today's race are looking a little bit past the 30.6 margin. A little interesting to see that here today, and kind of alluding to what I was experiencing during my time racing. Granted, it wasn't in these cars here at this track, but you can definitely find yourself down quite a few seconds. Well, maybe not necessarily seconds, but a few tenths here and there. It's a weird track to try and get used to, especially when you have open setups, which I'm not sure if here at Old Bastards there is open setups. I would have to go back and check for that, but that isn't necessarily the focus of interest here tonight. As we're taking a look at Dan Hill, the 10th place driver on the timing tower. There's a handful of drivers that have yet to make their way out onto the track here today, with just under 5 minutes left before the checkered flag is waved, indicating the end of our qualifying run here today. Along with Dan Hill, we have Greg McDaniel, the 30 machine, also going to be putting in some laps here to see where he can put himself on the timing tower. And already it's looking like that top 3, top 4, and we did see John Hinchcliffe, make his way up into that second place spot with a 30.45, just ahead of Dwayne Mcarthur into that second place spot. So great work for the 8 driver of John Hinchcliffe. And being that these drivers are only allocated 2 laps for this qualifying run, you only have 2 opportunities to be as fast as possible around the track. And, you know, sometimes the short run speed drivers will often find themselves a little bit faster during that qualifying. But oftentimes the long run drivers, particularly in races where long run strategy plays a huge part in the race, you'll often see those drivers kind of succeed later on down the road. But in qualifying, it may look as if they just don't have the pace. But you also got to remind yourselves, folks, that qualifying is not a good indicator of what's going to happen during the race itself. So kind of just an idea of what the potential is for the driver at hand and what sort of pace they are able to set on their own. Now, once you get drivers side by side with you, things start to change up a little bit. The lines that you prefer to take during your time just ripping it around the track by yourself suddenly do not become available or as easily available. So definitely a lot of things to look out for as we're looking at Alan Wanamaker in the 23 machine make his way around the back straightaway Heading into turn number 3 for his first time lap. Let's see where the 23 machine is going to end up on the starting grid here. After he comes out of 4 and onto the checkered line, we also have Tom Ogle, Dean Gear out on track as well. Brian Glass, the 87 machine, also out on track here as Alan Wanamaker comes across the line with a 31.64. So he's going to be at the tail end of this field as, again, you know, this is this is a tough track to be fast at least that I found. To get up into those 30-second, 31 seconds, low 31s, I should say, can be sometimes a little challenging, especially when you're by yourself. When you're in a pack, multiple drivers are in the groove with you, things are a little bit easier, but sometimes that isn't going to be the case. And Brian Glass actually almost cracking his way into the top 10. There it is. I was a little confused there for a second, but Tom Ogle, he is going to indeed crack his way into the top 10 as we're taking a look at him now in the number 11 machine. With a 30.72 as his best time, and Dean Gear, the 92 machine, able to whip his way up into 7th place with a 30.64. Brian Glass up into 6th place with a 30.57. So a little bit of a late start for some of these drivers getting their way out onto qualifying, but definitely showing that they have what it takes here at Texas Motor Speedway for the Metro Ford Cup Series. Here with Old Bastards Racing League. It's good to be here this early Sunday morning. Not necessarily that early, but it's a good start to the Sunday evening with some Cup Series action as we're going to wrap things up here with qualifying. The checkered flag is going to fly, and drivers are going to make their way back down onto the starting line and get themselves ready for today's race. Eddie Jones, John Hinchcliffe going to be in our front row. Dwayne Mcarthur, Dakota Pischke in our second row. Dan Hill, Brian Glass in our third row. Lloyd Moore, Dean Gear in our fourth row. Kevin Strandberg, Tom Ogle in our fifth row. Michael Watts, Greg McDaniel in our sixth row. Moving on down the grid here. Joey Buscemi in 13th. Lee Warsdell in 14th. Alan Wanamaker in 15th. Tony Romack in 16th. Michael Dow in 17th. Mike Schrader in 18th. Ken Huff in 19th. John Hastings in 20th. Robert Guarisco in 21st. Garrett Cottingham in 22nd, Brian Lindsay in 23rd, Larry Corey in 24th. Moving a little bit further down the grid here, rounding out our field, Bert Dodson and Joey Nelson in the back row. So that'll be our starting lineup for today's race. Now, I also want to point out talk a little bit about our point standings, a little bit about last week's race, and kind of discuss about what is going to shape up today's race here at Texas Motor Speedway, as Eddie Jones, John Hinchcliffe are going to be the front runners of today's race. But last week, we saw Thomas Ogle, Dwayne Mcarthur, and Daniel Hill take the top 3 spots, with Thomas Ogle leading a majority of the race with 156 laps underneath that 11 machines belt. So great race at Bristol Motor Speedway for Thomas Ogle, and Daniel Hill also had some good opportunities there to lead the race, well, at least get up there into the lead, as he finished the race a lap down. Dwayne Mcarthur and Thomas Ogle both were the only 2 drivers on the lead lap when the checkered flag flew. So very interesting race to see at Bristol Motor Speedway. But here tonight at Texas, I expect things to be pretty fast and pretty interesting. I mean, from the past few races that I've seen that I've called for, it's been a lot of single file action. These drivers just want to get themselves comfortable and get themselves in a groove as quickly as possible. And really, there's only feels like one line that you can take here at Texas. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it works better for other drivers, sometimes not as well. But we are going to actually go to green flag here in just a moment as we go through the Geico restart zone. And across the checkered line here at Texas Motor Speedway, Eddie Jones, John Hinchcliffe. Both the front runners in this race here today. The 14 machine going to try and give himself a good gap coming out of turn 1 and onto the back straightaway. A little bit of contact here. Checking up from Brian. It looks like Dean Gear actually in the 92. Or is that a 7 on top of there? The 87 of Brian Glass. That's who I assumed it was at first, but I couldn't tell for certain. But out of turn 4, across the checkered line here once again. Through turns 1 and 2, everyone doing a fantastic job of giving each other plenty of room to duke it out, and even going down the back straightaway here, most drivers just trying to tuck in to one another, take advantage of that draft, and just really keep themselves in the battle here. 150 laps here at Texas, going to be quite the race to witness. As up towards the top 5, Brian Glass down onto the inside of Dan Hill. Down the back straightaway, Dakota Pischke in the Monster Energy 1 machine here. Through turns 3 and 4, Brian Glass, Dan Hill continue to be side by side as Michael Watts, the 84 driver, able to get a line down the inside. Now going to be duking it out, was duking it out with Dan Hill for just a moment, but now looking on the inside of Brian Glass here, staying down extremely low. Coming down the back straightaway, trying to get himself tucked in behind Dakota Pischke in the number 1 machine. Appears to be slowed down a little bit here. The 87 machine of Brian Glass, a good run on the outside, keeping himself alongside the action here, able to get himself up into the front behind the number 8 of John Hinchcliffe. It's a battle for 3rd place. Heading into turn number 1, Brian Glass, smooth move up into 3rd place. Great work from the 87 driver. Just keep making it look easy here. Smooth and easy for the Kodak 87. I believe that was a Kodak. Did that say Kodak? I hope it did. Okay, I see Kodak on there. We're good. We're all good. But looking a little bit further back, the top 5 battles still kind of lingering around here, just here and there, and even looking a little bit further beyond that, you can see more of that action kind of unfolding here. Let's see if we can get a better view of this field. Our blimp operator doing all that he possibly can here, but not going to be quite what we're looking for here at this moment. But oh boy, Michael Watts on the inside of Dakota Pischke. A little bit of contact between them, but nothing more, nothing less. They're able to keep on racing here, and Dakota probably not going to be too satisfied at this moment, dropping down the field, already down 1 position from where he started at the beginning of today's race, lap 7 of 150. I mean, you could also kind of put yourself in the mindset too as a driver that, hey, it's still early in this race, and you still have to bear in mind that we're going to have to make pit stops. We're going to have to come down through the field or through pit road, get a fresh set of tires, get fuel. So, you know, if you really want to kind of play it a little bit more safely, you could allow yourself to take it easy on those tires, allow yourself to conserve fuel, extend your stint as long as possible. That way, towards the end of things, I mean, theoretically, you should be on the freshest set of tires and have the most fuel amongst the field. So, I mean, there's obviously different strategies that you can play out here. I am definitely not an analyst in any sort of way in that regard, but I can definitely tell you that you've got a long race ahead of you. You got to kind of plan long term. You can't just think of things as, all right, next lap is going to be the checkered flag. It's definitely going to take a while before you get to that point. And I think more than certain that these drivers are well aware of that. But sometimes, I think every driver can be guilty of it sometimes, where the green flag drop or the green flag drops for the first time, and you just want to giddy up and go because that's the best time to do it. When everyone is side by side with one another, you're the closest to each other. That's when you're able to make those big gains, big moves. But yeah, going past that, it definitely can be a little bit of a double-edged sword, if you will, kind of shooting yourself in your own foot if you're trying to be super aggressive early on. But I think majority of these guys are going to be well aware of that and are not going to try and push it this early on in the race. But they are still going to take these passing opportunities when they see them coming. And even as we're looking here, we can see the 87 of Brian Glass back down into 5th place here. Still going to be up a spot from his 6th place starting position here, but you can definitely see the challenges being thrown by these drivers. And the interesting thing about Texas Motor Speedway here, folks, is that, the draft, it works extremely well here. You're able to get down this back straightaway, build up a lot of momentum, contact between the 84 of Michael Watts and Dan Hill. Michael Watts down onto the apron, able to keep it together, back up on the racetrack. Still side by side, just ahead of Dan Hill in the number 10 machine back into turn number 1. After a little bit of a scrape and a bang, Michael Watts, unfazed in the 84 car, retains his 3rd place spot in the top 3. And even then we have Eddie Jones and Dwayne Mcarthur, both of these two drivers, starting to build up quite the distance between themselves and the rest of the field, while everyone else is battling behind them, beating into one another. Not necessarily beating into one another, but they're getting into draft with one another. They're having to slow down to avoid contact, so on and so forth. They're able to get into this clean air ahead of them and just go, go, go. They don't have anything to worry about. And I think at this point, even with almost a half a second, oh boy, we've got trouble. Back down the back straightaway, John Hinchcliffe and Lloyd Moore. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. That's not what you want to see. That was completely unintentional. I don't think the 26 machine meant to do that. Lloyd Moore here. That I think that was a monumental mistake here on the part of Lloyd. But here we go. Down the back straightaway, there's contact between Lloyd and John Hinchcliffe. Both of their engines going to be smoking here, and here is the contact leading up. So here comes Lloyd trying to get up into the field, and I'm assuming he probably shifted down, potentially. Let's take a listen here. He dropped the clutch, probably. Yeah, looks like he was in, I think that's 2nd gear. Yeah, he was in 2nd gear when that happened. So, with that out of the way here, folks, drivers are going to be able to come down through pit road. And lap 16 of 150, this is going to be an early stop at best. I think what some drivers might be doing. Let's see if anyone's going to get tires. Okay, some drivers are getting tires. Interesting. I don't know exactly how many tires drivers are allocated for this race. I really couldn't tell you. I'm not entirely sure, but hopefully someone watching the race here, maybe that is a driver, will be able to tell me. But that's either way, that's perfectly fine. It's all right to get yourself a fresh set of Goodyears when you have them available. Nothing wrong with that. But this early, that's kind of surprising. Sometimes you see drivers that they'll opt to stay out ahead of the field and not come down through pit road and just say, hey, you know what, I'm going to stay out in these tires. Maybe it's a mandatory thing here at OBRL. I'm not 100% certain. But being that I am a fill-in here for James East, that normally is covering the action here for the Sunday morning Cup Series, for the Metro Ford Cup Series. He is actually going to be away at 24 Hours of Lemons in Kentucky. So he is going to be driving a $500 hoopty, which, just to inform anyone who might be interested, the first one that they brought, well, it basically doesn't drive anymore. So they had to purchase another $500 hoopty, and hopefully that will be able to race. I have not seen any updates since then. Hopefully, though, things are going well for Team Too Many Wheels as they make their endeavor for the 24 Hours of Lemons. So as we come down the back straightaway, getting ourselves ready for today's action, coming into turn number 3 with the yellow flag still out here. I believe the pace car is going to come in here once we come out of turn number 4. Just waiting to see here if that's going to be the case. I believe it will be. Indeed it is. So drivers going to get themselves stacked up, ready to go. It's going to be Dwayne, Mcarthur, Michael Watts in the front row, Eddie Jones, Dan Hill in the second row, Brian Glass, Tom Ogle in our third row, and I have to remember to fix that little bug in our ears here in just a few moments. But I also have updates from the chat here. We have unlimited tires, and fall off is huge, and yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah, you definitely don't hold on to these tires for very long after a few laps. It definitely seems after 15, 20 laps, the pace that you had at the best stage of their, well, when they're at their best, is what I'm trying to say here. Yeah, these tires definitely don't last very long here at Texas Motor Speedway, but almost 3 wide. We come out of turn number 2 onto the back straightaway, and I gotta say, when you're coming out of 2 down that back straight, you carry a lot of speed, a lot of momentum, and there's a few times where you almost smack into that wall. You gotta be really, really careful. You gotta manage your distance between yourself and that wall. You almost come within inches of it if you are carrying enough speed. Drivers here coming through turns 1 and 2. Dwayne Mcarthur trying to get himself back up to that gap that we saw before the caution came out here. Lap 20 of 150. The only caution that we've seen here tonight, and really only a minor one at that, only involving 2 drivers at this point in time, and Lloyd Moore appears to still be down in pit lane. I'm not sure if that's because it did appear that he blew that engine in that 26 machine, but I'm not 100% certain on what the case might be there, as there was a lot of damage done down that back straight. As we come into turn 3, we're looking in kind of the top 10 region with the 64 of Tony Romack, the UPS machine. Coming out of turn 4 on the front straightaway, Brian Glass starting to give a little bit of pressure to our leader in the 83 Bass Pro Shops machine. Coming out of turn 2 onto the back straightaway, the Kodak 87 car looking to take the lead here. As we come down into turn number 3, the 87, good speed, able to carry that momentum forward, and already past a quarter of a second gap between himself and this field. But let's see what Dwayne Mcarthur is going to do in that 83 car as we come back into turn 1 with Eddie Jones kind of trailing along here in 3rd place at this moment, and a string of drivers beyond that starting to pull themselves into the mix here, with Tom Ogle in the 11 car, putting himself right behind Dakota Pischke in 5th place at this moment. So I'm seeing a lot of patience here throughout this field. You know, you can get a lot of draft here at Texas Motor Speedway, and it definitely seems like a lot of these guys are kind of taking it easy here and that's to be expected. It's still early in this race, lap 24 of 150. Not a whole lot that we can really do here that is going to benefit you in any way. I mean, you can make positions when it becomes available, but at the same time, you can also lose them just as quickly. So you got to be careful. You got to keep your eyes open, especially when it's this early in the race. You don't want to put yourself out of it before it's even begun, so to speak. But right now, we're starting to see this collection of cars up here in the top 10, and really, I don't know what's going to happen here with, Brian Glass already starting to get himself up to over a half a second gap between himself and the rest of this field here. So doing a phenomenal job in the 87 machine at this moment, and Dwayne Mcarthur trying to do all that he can in the 83, leading this kind of gaggle of cars behind him. Let's see if we can take a look out the rear view of his machine at this moment. There it is. Looking out the back of the 83 car, seeing what's happening behind his machine as we come down the back straightaway. Just a line of traffic behind him, and all of them hunting for the same position that he's in right now. So, I mean, I'm certain Dwayne Mcarthur feels the pressure, and I'm almost more than certain that Brian Glass is going to feel the pressure here before too long. But I got to say, things are looking calm, clean, and steady here at this moment in lap 27 of 150. Again, it's going to be a long race here tonight, but, well, today, rather. I'm used to saying tonight, folks. I'm always a late-night broadcaster, but today, Sunday morning, that's a different story. So, just kind of peeking in with our drivers throughout the field here as the action kind of starts to settle back out towards the front of the field, but only just. Brian Glass, Dwayne Mcarthur, Michael Watts, all in our top three. Eddie Jones, Dakota Pischke, 4th and 5th place. Lap 28 of 150. As things get settled out here, we're single file throughout the field. We're going to go ahead and take a very quick commercial break. Go ahead and fix that little bug in our ear, and we will be right back for more of the Sunday Morning Cup Series here with Metro Ford for the Old Bastards Racing League. Stay tuned, don't go anywhere. We'll be back for more iRacing right here on Team Goon Squad. Welcome back, race fans. It is lap 31 of 150. Well, we've got that bug in our ear fixed here. Tom Ogle, we're looking at right now, the number 11 machine, getting himself a run in the White Claw car. Right behind Brian Glass in the 87 Kodak machine as we are coming into turn number 1. Tom Ogle going to be looking for a spot here into the top 5. Trying to do all that he can. And taking a look here for a moment, we're going to look at our season standings, our championship at this moment. And Dwayne Mcarthur is actually our leader at this point in time with the number 83 machine, 3,031 points to his name, and only 8 points behind him, Thomas Ogle in the number 11. Stephen Thompson as well, very, very close here behind Thomas Ogle, only 10 points. 18 points behind the leader, Stephen Thompson, holding on to that 3rd place spot here. So we have got quite the battle for the championship here in the Metro Ford Cup Series. And I gotta say, it's getting exciting here at Texas Motor Speedway. You know, given that lap 33, you know, we've already seen a lot of interest. Ooh, whoa, what was that? Tony Romack. Oh boy, he's going for a ride across the grass on the front straight, or the front curve rather. The UPS 64 machine. Oh boy, oh boy. Trying to get that car slowed down as much as he possibly can here. Sitting back in 22nd now after that little bit of calamity across the front straightaway. He's now going to fall back to what is essentially the end of the field. Michael Watts in third place, the 84 machine. Also having a good run here in third. I mean, frankly, a lot of these drivers have done a phenomenal job in tonight's race. It's just a lot of preparing now that is going to be tricky here, because we've already seen it, you know, drivers coming down during that first caution, only 15, I believe it was, 14, 15, 17. Wait, no, that was the green flag. Hold on. 14. Okay, I was right. So, I mean, lap 14, drivers are already wanting to come down into pit road to get a fresh set of Goodyears. Now, we've gone past that point now. We are definitely well past, you know, 15 laps, so it's not like drivers are going to be coming down every 15 laps to get tires. But what's interesting here is that, you know, when drivers have the opportunity to take as many tires as they want, you know, they're going to want to be on the fastest set that they possibly can. But when you have these green flag runs and you don't exactly want to give up your position, you're not trying to put yourself out of the race, that's when the planning comes into play. That's when the strategy comes in. And yellow flag here with Larry Corey going to be involved in this one here in the 17 machine. Oh boy. Already down in pit road, and quite the damage done to that 17 car. Let's take a look at the instant replay here and see. Looks like a slide job. Oh boy. Oh, a gnarly hit. Right to the wall, just on the exit of turn 2 there. Bringing that car to a complete stop in a nasty spin. So Larry Corey, the 17 machine, that's probably going to put him out of the race here, given that that contact is going to have a significant amount of damage to that front end. I mean, you're not only are you talking damage to the engine itself, you're talking damage to the frame, body panels. I mean, even those are easily replaceable, but basically that whole front end of that car is going to need to be rebuilt. But second caution here, and I believe everyone's going to come down into pit road. They're going to take that fresh set of tires and fuel, just like we expect here. So lap 39 of 150. You know, and really, it's interesting here as well, kind of the dynamic we see here every restart. It's knowing that everyone is going to be on the same set of tires. There's no kind of question of, is anyone going to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to try and stay out a little bit longer, or make that kind of oddball decision. But here it's pretty straightforward. Everyone's going to want to stay out and, come through pit road. I mean, get that fresh set of tires, get fuel, and so on and so forth. But some drivers, obviously, here going to be still out on track, trying to get themselves back up to the lead lap. Joe Nelson, one of those drivers, as he takes it across the checkered line here and puts himself back onto the lead lap. Unfortunately for himself, though, he's going to be down a pit lap unless he decides to try and come in here while the field is still pitting, or while still pacing. But that, I don't know about that one. Because then he would just be back in the same situation that he was in. But maybe not, though. Pace lap here at Texas Motor Speedway, for some reason, just feels obnoxiously slow. I don't know why, but 55, well, actually, no. Was it 45? I believe it is. I think the pace car goes around like 45 or 55, something like that. It's too slow. Okay, it's too slow. I'm only ranting here at this point, but so Joe Nelson, he's going to come down through pit road, so I think he's actually going to have plenty of time here. But it's always kind of a tricky situation when, you know, you're a lap driver trying to get those laps back. You have the opportunity to come down through pit road, you know, get tires, get fuel, all that fun stuff. It's always kind of a weird question of, if I do that, though, am I going to be able to stay on the lead lap? But here at Texas, you got plenty of time, so you should be all right. But if you go to places like Bristol, if you go to places like North Wilkesboro, different story. Different story. Mark Schrader, 55 pace speed and 45 pit road speed. That's what I thought. Yeah, so it's definitely a drastic difference when you're going from, we're seeing top speeds here. Well, right now we're not seeing any top speeds because about 190 to not quite 200 miles an hour, about 190, 180 miles an hour between the field at this moment. So, you know, that's a 125 mile an hour difference, essentially. It's a lot. It's a lot. So with our second caution here, let's take a look at our, well, who's going to start up in the front row here, or who's going to start where on this restart. Dwayne Mcarthur, Michael Watts going to be in the front row. Eddie Jones, Dakota Pischke in the second row. Tom Ogle and Brian Glass in our third row. Mike Schrader, Kevin Strandberg in the fourth row. Greg McDaniel and Joey Usimi in the fifth row. But as we come out of turn number 4, the pace car is back in, and through the Geico restart zone we go. Here at Texas Motor Speedway, back to green flag racing, lap 43 of 150. Michael Watts up on the outside here of Dwayne Mcarthur, looking for a run down the back straightaway. Too wide throughout some spots of the track here. Mcarthur throwing a block to Watts, trying to prevent the 84 Lowe's machine from getting another run to the lead here. Mcarthur trying to retain his lead in the championship. Eddie Jones also in third place, keeping himself up here in the mix of things. Dakota Pischke, Tom Ogle duking it out nearly side by side. The 11 machine on the outside, down the back straightaway. Looking for a little bit more momentum heading into turn number 3. He's able to get ahead of the Monster Energy 1 car. Up into fourth place now. Tom Ogle now has to get his way up past Eddie Jones, Michael Watts into the lead to battle for that championship lead here at Texas Motor Speedway. Things getting heated up here, heading out of turn number 2 onto the back straightaway, looking a little bit further beyond the top 5. 2 wide, 3 deep. Calm and steady, though, with all of these drivers throughout this field. Dan Hill, the 10 Air Force machine. Looked like for a moment he hesitated on that outside lane and said, you know what, no, this isn't going to work, and dropped down to the bottom there. But either way, it seemed to work out in his favor. But meanwhile, ahead of him, I mean, things are just getting more heated throughout this race. Oh boy, a little bit of shuffling between Dakota Pischke, Mike Schrader. The 4 Busch machine now on the outside of the number 8 of John Hinchcliffe. A little bit further beyond that, just looking through this field now, seeing where everyone's stacking themselves up. As now we have Thomas Ogle finding himself up here in the top 3, just ahead of Eddie Jones now, hunting down Dwayne Mcarthur, the current leader in the championship. Michael Watts leading this race in the number 84 car. Michael Watts also the, well, we'll call him the second hard charger of the race here, up 10 spots from where he started tonight. Mike Schrader, though, up 12 spots from where he started in 18th here tonight, and now up into 6th. Checking out some of the action happening throughout this field. Brian Glass, the 87 driver, who, frankly, we've seen do fairly well in this race here. Now kind of back here towards the tail end of this field. Not 100% certain if he just got a bad pit exit or what the case may be. But back here towards the tail end of the field, now having to work his way through all of this traffic, which right now got a lot of clean air ahead of him to break through before he's getting back up into the top 15, the top 10, and so on. So it's kind of sad to see Glass down here as far as he is, but I mean, it even seems like he's fallen off a little bit here. And I don't see any damage to that 87 car either, which makes me wonder. Lap 51 of 150. And Michael Watts, he has built himself up an impressive lead here. Over a second between himself and second place at this moment. Dwayne Mcarthur, Tom Ogle, Eddie Jones, Dakota Pischke, Mike Schrader. I mean, it's a pack of cars here battling for lead positions, or podium positions, I should say. But single file now throughout most of this field. Mike Schrader going to be up on the outside of Dan Hill. As we come into turn number 1, and Mike Schrader suggesting that Glass possibly had some issues with tire wear coming into play here, and that could very well be the case here. Tires definitely playing a huge factor here at Texas Motor Speedway. I mean, once you burn through that rubber, it's almost impossible to hold a line here in Texas. You're pretty much just fighting the car every single turn. It's not a fun experience, to say the least. Oh boy, contact. Mike Schrader to John Hinchcliffe. More contact into 3, and there's trouble. The 56 able to hold onto it. Joey Bushimi, the 56 machine, just, oh man. You know what? That's why he's got Pit Boss on there. You know, because that was a pretty boss move there from the 56 driver. Great work keeping that car together after that contact. That was a big hit too, folks. That was quite the hit. No caution coming from it though. No worries of having this field getting restacked here again, at least yet. As we are now under 100 laps left to go here at Texas Motor Speedway. And Michael Watts has started to find himself dropping down from that 1 second lead that he had just a few laps ago. Now finding himself to just under a half a second at this point in time. So, you know, tire wear, again, it's going to be affecting a lot of drivers here tonight. And I think for Michael Watts, it's going to start affecting him now at this point. Because last time these drivers came down through pit road at lap 39 to be exact, everyone got fresh tires, everyone got fuel. But it comes down to the matter of who is driving how. I mean, how hard are you driving into the turns? I mean, how much are you cranking on that wheel, you know, to be able to make that turn? That's really a crucial aspect of this. You know, you don't want to find yourself ripping on the wheel to the point where it feels like you're driving in a rally race. That's not ideal. You want to have as little input as you possibly can to make these turns. Now, to kind of give you guys an example of that, let's go ahead and ride on board here with the 10 machine of Dan Hill. Now, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to be quiet for a little bit. We're going to ride on board here with Dan Hill and just listen to the sights and sounds here at Texas Motor Speedway, as well as just kind of watch and pay attention to how Dan Hill handles a lap here at Texas Motor Speedway. Caution on the track here with Garrett Cottingham. The 114 machine, the Mountain Dew. Is that Code Red? Oh boy. So taking a ride across the grass here on the front curve. Through pit road and up onto the racing surface into turn one. Drivers barely making it on by here. Bringing that car to a stop finally. Oh, boy. Unfortunate to see that here for Garrett Cottingham. But luckily for this field, I mean, again, as far as pit strategy goes, I mean, this is probably the most ideal way to do it. You know, a caution comes out. Okay, come down pit road, get some tires, get fuel, back out. All right, we're good to go. This definitely makes things a lot more simplistic for drivers. They definitely don't have to sit there and crunch numbers in their head and try and figure out when the best time to come down into pit road, or maybe they'll pass that lovely privilege on to their crew chief. But yeah, I mean, as far as race strategy goes, this is pretty ideal. Having almost a caution come out every kind of towards the tail end of a stint here with your tires. I mean, it's been pretty close, I'll have to say. But it seems like when the caution does come out, it seems like that's about the time when drivers are probably thinking about coming through pit road and getting on a fresh set of tires and fuel. But there we see Garrett Cottingham as well as Lloyd Moore coming down into pit road here, making their stops here on lap 64 of 150. As we are just about 10 laps to the halfway point here today at Texas Motor Speedway for the Metro Ford Cup Series. Brought to you by Old Bastards Racing League, Dr. Amy, the Thyroid Fixer. Of course, Metro Ford, a big sponsor of this series. So third caution of the race here today. Dan Hill, Michael Watts going to be in the front row with Dwayne Mcarthur, Tom Ogle in our second row. Eddie Jones, Dakota Pischke in our third row. Kevin Strandberg, Greg McDaniel in our fourth row. Lee Warsdell and Robert Guaresco in our fifth row. As we come into turn number 3 and out of turn number 4, we will see the pace car make its way down into pit road and get ourselves ready for the action here once again at Texas Motor Speedway. For the Metro Ford Cup Series with Old Bastards Racing League, the pace car is in as we enter into the Geico restart zone. The green flag drops here once again. Dan Hill, Michael Watts. It's a battle for the lead. Hill off to a good start. Heading off into turn number 1. Watts falls off a little bit here, but not by much, trying to keep his momentum up. Out of turn number 2 onto the back straightaway. Dwayne Mcarthur, the 83 machine, looking for some action. Down on the inside of Michael Watts here, looking to see if he can push his way up into second place. Tom Ogle looking to see what he can do here as well. Coming out of turn number 4, back onto the front curve here at Texas Motor Speedway. Single file for the drivers up here in the lead at this point in time. And throughout this field, it seems to be the case for many drivers. As we take a look throughout this field, it looks to be towards the back, things are a little bit more hectic. Chaotic, however you want to say it. The 87 of Brian Glass here, down the back straightaway, heading into turn number 3. One of the drivers that has done phenomenally well in the beginning of this race here, now having to fight his way back up into the front of the action here. John Hinchcliffe as well, the 8 driver, having seen some action towards the front of the field, now into 15th. Trying to see what he can do in the, what is now going to, you could almost call it the half point. A halfway point in today's race. Still have about 7 laps before it is officially the halfway point, but close enough. Dan Hill, Michael Watts, it is a close battle for the lead, but I mean, looking behind these guys, they are just trailing away from these guys, and Watts looking down onto the inside, down the back straightaway on the inside of Dan Hill. Side-by-side action heading into turn number 3. Watts takes the lead with Hill up on the outside, dropping back down into the draft of the 84 machine. Coming out onto the front curve out of turn number 4, and across the checkered line, it's lap 70 here at Texas Motor Speedway. Boy. Brian Glass, the 8 machine of John Hinchcliffe right behind him in that Kodak machine. We also have the 92 of Dean Gear and the KFC machine. Oh man, now I'm hungry. Up on the outside as well, but they quickly clear that, bring it back single file, and Brian Glass here maybe appears to have overdrove that one going into 1 and 2. Had to slow it down in order to make that exit there, but either way, I mean, it is a scramble out here on track right now, it looks like. Everyone giving each other plenty of room here, though. I mean, if we even look at the track map here as well, it looks like they're all bunched up and close together, and frankly, they are. But everyone is being so respectful with each other, giving each other plenty of room to work with. As looking a little bit further behind that, the action on our screen here definitely getting intense, as we have the 28 on the inside of Lee Warsdell, Robert Guarisco. Now, Robert, I feel like you did this on purpose. The 28 machine, the 28 Crisco machine, and your last name is Guarisco. If I'm even saying that right, I hope I am, but I feel like that was a play on words. That nice. Anyway. Greg McDaniel, Kevin Strandberg that we're looking at right now. Just kind of taking a look at various battles on the track at this moment, seeing where everyone is finding themselves, and seeing potentially how this next sort of run is going to play out for these drivers. I mean, are we going to see another yellow come out to bring the field through the pits? Or are we going to see a green flag run and see drivers attempt to make a green flag pit stop? I mean, I don't know. We haven't seen one yet. I'm curious to see if we're going to see one before the end of the race here today. But it's going to be tough, to say the least. I mean, like I said before, these cars, well, maybe not these cars specifically. I'm sure that they probably don't handle very well either on bad tires. But let me tell you, folks, when you start to, you start to lose the rear end, and well, really the whole car essentially starts to feel like it just wants to spin on you. Not a great feeling. When you're trying to keep the car together, you're trying to keep it in a straight line, and everyone else around you is pushing and pushing and pushing, and oh man, sometimes it can feel like it can feel pretty hopeless sometimes, but just got to keep doing what you're doing, keep with it, and hope for the best. But as we're looking here at the 32 of John Hastings and Robert Guarsco, lap 78 of 150. The action here relatively calm, I mean, through the majority of this field at this moment. We got a few drivers getting stacked up with one another, giving each other a little bit of runs here and there, but for the most part, it's pretty calm and steady. Most of these guys are going to be trying to get into the draft with one another. They're going to be trying to find that line that is going to work best for them. Maybe not even necessarily best for them, as Lee Warsdell appears to have potentially made a little bit of a ride across the grass here as well. Not the only driver to do that here today, so frankly, not all that surprising to see. I mean, it's the way that from turns 4 to 1 right here, it doesn't look all that strange, from a spectator's point of view. It looks pretty straightforward, but let me tell you, as a driver, I mean, if you weren't paying attention to the onboard that we had earlier, it is not so straightforward sometimes, especially when you're side by side with guys. It can get a little dicey rather quickly. But lap 81 of 150, the action is steadily brewing but calm at this moment. Everyone just clicking off laps, just getting ready for the next stint here. And while they do that, we're going to go ahead. We're going to take a moment we're going to take a quick commercial break. Give ourselves a moment here to catch our breaths. Grab a drink, get some water, all that fun stuff. Folks, stay tuned, don't go anywhere, and we will be right back for more of the Sunday Morning Cup Series here with Old Bastards Racing League, the Metro Ford Cup Series. Stay tuned, don't go anywhere. There'll be more iRacing right here on Team Goon Squad in just a moment. Welcome back, race fans. The lap 85 of 150 here at Texas Motor Speedway. Still tagging along here with Dakota Pischke where we left off before the commercial break. Holding on to that 5th place spot here at this moment. And looking at the top 3, things are starting to get a little bit more interesting here for the podium positions here. Dwayne Mcarthur starting to see Michael Watts and Tom Ogle slowly but surely reel themselves in here. As Michael Watts and Tom Ogle, I mean, they continue to not necessarily ride bumper to bumper to each other. They're just kind of lurking in the distance between each other, and really the whole top 3, that is what's happening here. Just a lot of fighting for every 10th of a second that they can get here. And Tom Ogle looking for a run down on the inside of Michael Watts, side by side. The White Claw machine going to be down on the inside of the 84 of Michael Watts and out of turn number 2 onto the back straightaway. Battle continuing for that 2nd place position. Michael Watts not giving up here quite yet, but he's going to fall back behind the 11 car and see what kind of momentum he can build coming out of turn number 4 with Eddie Jones, the 14 machine, looking for some action here as well, pulling himself in to the draft of the drivers here in the top 3 and gonna put himself up on the outside lane and coming out of turn number 2 onto the back straightaway. Not exactly certain how that's gonna work here for him, but he's gonna put himself right alongside Michael Watts, so he definitely had a lot of great momentum there, and looks like Michael Watts putting some pressure here on the 11 of Tom Ogle. Let's ride out the rear view and see just what that kind of looks like here. Coming down the back straight away. Thomas able to keep himself in the 2nd place spot and building himself up a gap between these drivers behind him as they continue to duke it out side by side, kind of using that to his advantage here. So a lot of this action having steadily gotten to a point now where most drivers have a pretty comfortable gap between any drivers around them. Now, take that as you will, whether that's a good or a bad thing, but I think depending on where you are in this field, you might be asking for a little bit of distance between yourself and any drivers. But at this point in the race, it's lap 92 of 150, so 30 laps that drivers have completed here on these set of tires. Got to be wondering if anyone's going to be thinking about coming through pit road anytime soon, or if we're going to see that dreaded yellow flag that, on the one hand, will get the field restacked and give drivers another opportunity to battle for positions again. But on the other hand, it definitely takes away a lot of the potential strategies that we could see played out here for some of these drivers. So definitely want to see as much potential from these drivers as we can. Dwayne Mcarthur starting to see a little bit of trouble here in the lead. As Tom Ogle, Eddie Jones, Michael Watts, they all get themselves closer and closer to the lead. And Thomas Ogle really tracking along the back end here of the 83 of Dwayne Mcarthur, letting him know that he's there, getting in his mirrors as much as he can. Trying to get a slingshot move here down the back straightaway, coming out of turn 2, looking into turn number 3. Not quite the momentum he needs this time around. Let's see if he can build it up next time around and try that same move again. But lap 95 of 150, 96 as we cross the line here. Not a whole lot of time left in today's race, and laps are quickly ticking away. Riding on board here with Dakota Pischke in the one Monster Energy machine. Sitting in that 5th place spot here at this moment, just looking outside of this battle kind of for the lead, really. He's kind of in a really good spot, you know, to just be able to see everything first and foremost. I know we kind of have this bar in the middle of our view, and I do apologize for that, but we can kind of see where these drivers are putting themselves in this battle, and you can kind of see where the line, the direction of travel is heading for this field. Now, some drivers going to opt to be a little bit different here, as we see a big run here from Pischke, getting his way up into Michael Watts in the 84 machine, just ahead of him in the 4th place position. Oh boy, it's brewing up here for the lead, and for Dakota, Michael, these two are just kind of barely outside of it all, looking in. Lap 99 of 150. And across the line, it's 50 laps left to go here at Texas Motor Speedway. Dwayne Mcarthur, the leader. Tom Ogle in 2nd. Eddie Jones in 3rd. And it, oh boy, oh boy. Oh no. Michael Watts, trouble for the 84 machine out of turn number 2 on the back straightaway. Gets himself a big spin here. Well, not necessarily a spin. It looked like he just got loose. Got loose, tried to correct it, and man, oh man, there's not much that you can do from that point on other than just lock up the tires and get that car to a stop. So as drivers make their way through pit road here on this fourth caution, lap 102 of 150. Dwayne Mcarthur going to come out on top here with Tom Ogle in that second place spot just behind him, getting themselves ready for the next restart here at Texas Motor Speedway. So with Dwayne Mcarthur, Tom Ogle, both the championship contenders. Tom Ogle only 8 points behind Dwayne Mcarthur. I mean, either one of them after tonight, Dwayne Mcarthur either comes away with the championship lead still, or Thomas Ogle strips it away from him here tonight at Texas Motor Speedway. It'll all be defined here tonight. Waiting for the pace car to make its dive back down into pit road here. And as we are about to come back to green flag racing through the Geico restart zone, the green flag drops. It's a 45 lap dash to the end here. And if I'm understanding my math here, I think that drivers will be able to make it all the way until the end here. Well, that's only if we see a green flag run into the end. And look at this. Action happening in the midfield. Drivers scrambling for positions. Action happening all over this field, and even as we look a little bit further ahead, Dakota Pischke, the number 1 machine, trying to look for a dive down onto the inside, up into third place with Thomas Ogle up on the outside, coming out of turn 2 onto the back straightaway. Eddie Mcarthur Dwayne Mcarthur and Eddie Jones first and second place here. Heading into turn 3. Pischke still down on the inside of Thomas Ogle. Out of turn number 4, Pischke able to get up ahead of the 11 machine into third place. Now on the hunt of Eddie Jones in the 14 into turn number 1. More action unfolding throughout this field in the midfield as well. But frankly, the battle for really between Dwayne Mcarthur and Tom Ogle is the one to see here, and Mcarthur seems to be the one on top of this here today. And being as close as Tom is to that lead for the championship, just 8 points separating him, I'm sure he's trying to give it all that he can here. But Texas is tough, folks. I can't tell you that enough. Texas is a tough track, not only to win at, but just to drive at in general. It is not forgiving in a lot of aspects. So props to these drivers, kudos to these drivers for doing as well as they have been here today. Lap 108 of 150. We're closing in pretty close to the end of the action here. About 40 laps left to go, 41 if you want to be technical. Dwayne Mcarthur, it's a long 40 laps left here, but he's had a good race here today. Eddie Jones, the 14 machine, giving himself a good run here in this late stage of the race. Let's see if anyone is going to have a challenge for Dwayne Mcarthur. I mean, the 83 machine has been very, very dominant in this race here today. He has been a tough driver to get past or even around or next to, for that matter, as Eddie Jones is going to attempt to do so here down the back straightaway. Thomas Ogle, the 11 machine, looking to get himself back up as close as he can to the top 3, seeing a little bit of fall off from that 11 car. Not sure, maybe he's even saving a little bit of those tires for the end of the race. He might be kind of planning for when these drivers all, are at the end stage of this race, the final 10 or 5 laps. Everyone's burned through their tires, and Thomas Ogle is just on a whole other strategy here. But we'll just have to wait and see if that's going to be the case. I'm not sure if that's going to quite work out the way that I think it will. But Brian Glass here, the Kodak machine, finally finding himself back up here in the top 5 with Michael Watts, the 84 driver, who was also fighting for that lead spot earlier in this race. I mean, folks, we have had an excellent battle for this lead here tonight. I mean, while it has been kind of sporadic in some places, it has been all over tonight. Multiple drivers taking the lead, getting an opportunity to lead some laps here. And now finally Dwayne Mcarthur is the driver to beat at this moment, but only by just a few tenths of a second. So there's still time left in this race for things to happen, and I wouldn't be too surprised if we see some you know what? No, I don't even want to go there. I'm not going to go there. The commentator's curse has been too real lately. we can't be doing that anymore. So looking a little bit past the top 10 here, Greg McDaniel, Brian Lindsay, Dan Hill, all 12 second and 12, 13th, and 14th, respectively, at this point in time. As we come down the back straightaway, single file for this field at this moment. Let's see if our blimp camera can get us a little bit of a better view here. Something, anything. Not quite what we were looking for, but that is a-okay. This is a great view of the field, though, as we are making our way into turn 1 and 2. Just ripping around the field here. Great driving from this field. So, love to see all the action. Oh, boy, no! Wow. Wow. Folks, I don't even have words for what we just witnessed. Wow. That's all I can say. John Hinchcliffe and Tom Ogle both getting into one another and both saving it like absolute professionals. That was just incredible. They're definitely going to be burning a little bit more. They definitely burned a little bit more rubber than they would have liked to in that situation, but the fact that they both saved it. Both of them. I mean, it was like watching just, a symphony, Anyway, back to the action here. The top three kind of starting to develop a little bit of a gap between themselves and the rest of this field here. Meanwhile, I mean, we've still got drivers getting themselves closer and, just into the draft behind anybody that they possibly can, trying to build up that momentum, trying to just say, hey, you know what, let's get this draft built up here. Let's try and really get some speed going here at Texas. Oh boy. The 24, Brian Lindsay, coming out of turn number 2, drops down to the apron there. Not sure if he was about to lose it and had to quickly recover, but if that was the case, he made it look easy. But we're going to take a look here at Dwayne Mcarthur, Eddie Jones, Dakota Pischke. These three drivers starting to... Eddie Jones and Dakota, they're starting to really put the pressure here on Dwayne. But, it doesn't seem like Dwayne's even fazed by it. He's just racing. Eddie Jones trying to look on the inside here as well in the T-Rex Games 14 car. Also see Brian Glass and Michael Watts 4th and 5th place, trying to get themselves up into the mix of things here. And now the final 30 laps of the race. I want to take a look at the... Oh, boy. Taking a look out the rear view of Dwayne Mcarthur's 83 machine, you can just see Eddie Jones, Dakota Pischke, as well as Michael Watts and Brian Glass. You can even start to see John Hinchcliffe, the number 8 machine, start to get up ever closer and closer into the draft here as we come down the back straightaway. But just look at how clean and smooth Dwayne Mcarthur is. Going through turn 3 and 4, not even phased. Folks, and that requires a lot of trust as a driver, with your opponents, to not dump you in these sort of situations, because it is so easy, as an opponent, as if you're following along with someone and you're bumper to bumper with them, it is so easy to make that decision to say, hey, you know what, I'm just going to give him a little bit of a bump here, and away he goes. All of a sudden, I'm the leader. It happens a lot in a lot of leagues that we cover here with Team Goon Squad. They frown upon that, as they should. It's, not exactly... Well, here's the thing, folks. There's a difference between, beating and banging and fighting for a win, and there's intentional wrecking. There's a big difference. Big difference. So, with that in mind, we haven't seen anybody really trying to do anything that would put any other driver in a detrimental situation. Everyone has been extremely respectful in today's race, and I just love to see it. But speaking of the lead, Eddie Jones has taken that from Dwayne Mcarthur here. Surprisingly, the 14 machine able to build up to nearly about 0.3 of a second here as we've got trouble down the back straightaway. Michael Watts getting into the wall. But what's interesting to note here as well, folks, even as Dwayne Mcarthur is starting to see a little bit of drop-off here, well, actually, you know what? It might even be that Dwayne has potentially gone through his tires here with 26 laps left to go. I could be wrong in that assumption. Hopefully I am, but 20, let's see here. We came in lap 101, so yeah, 25 laps that we've been on this set of tire. I mean, it is definitely a long time to be on a set here at Texas, so I'm not exactly certain what the track temperature here is at Texas at this moment. I'd have to go back and look, but I can imagine that it's pretty warm, pretty hot, and that it's burning through these tires rather quickly. And you can even start to see a little bit of slide happening out of the 83 machine of Dwayne Mcarthur. So yeah, maybe that might be the case here, that Dwayne is starting to suffer from that tire loss, from that tire fade, like Mark Schrader was talking about before earlier. And we have fans in the chat shouting out, cheering on their grandfather, Dakota Pischke, in the number 1 machine. Up in 3rd place here at this moment, just staying calm and steady as most of this field is at this point in time. Eddie Jones, Dwayne Mcarthur, Dakota Pischke, all rounding out the top 3 at this moment as we continue to just see them click off laps patiently, smoothly. Let's take a look at some of the action here happening throughout some of this midfield here as well, as the action towards the front has started to calm down a little bit as tire wear starting to come into play here. Dan Hill in that 10th place spot at the moment. Seeing Kevin Strandberg in the number 58 machine just behind him at this moment. Getting in his rear view a little bit down onto the left side as well, trying to get a run out of turn 2 onto the back straightaway. Still needs a little bit more momentum to be able to pull that one off here. And frankly, not a whole lot of drivers getting themselves in a whole lot of battles at this point in the race with 22 to go. See, right now, most drivers averaging, I would say, about a quarter of a second to a half a second gap between each other at this point in time. So not exactly seeing anyone bumper to bumper at this point in time like we are with John Hastings and Michael Watts. They're giving each other a little bit of a battle here for the the 7th place spot here as we come into turn number 3. The Tide 72 machine trying to stay up in front of the Lowe's 84 car. Coming across the checkered line here at Texas Motor Speedway. It's 20 laps left to go. Eddie Jones, you know, it's been interesting to see just how much the tire wear can affect drivers here in today's race, now that we've seen a lot of good green flag runs here with plenty of laps for these drivers to get some good runs in and get some information on how they are going to burn through these tires here tonight. So maybe Dwayne Mcarthur could have expected falling down the field like he did here with, you know, I believe it was 25, somewhere in that neighborhood to go, where we started to see that 83 machine fall off just a little bit from that lead. But look at this. A little bit of 3 wide action here between Dan Hill and the 28 of Robert Guarisco. 28 looking for a run down on the inside of the 10 Air Force machine, coming through turns 3 and 4 out onto the front curve. Dan Hill not going to make that one too easy here for Robert with 18 to go. He is saying, I'm trying to get myself as high up into the top 10 here as I possibly can. I'm not going to let you push me into that 10th place spot here. So top 10 positions are all being fought for here at this moment. I mean, we're only seeing the top 3 really separated from this field at this moment, about a second and a quarter between Dakota Pischke and the 4th place driver, Tom Ogle. So again, the top 3 just slowly but surely building themselves a good gap between themselves and the rest of this field. Meanwhile, there's still action brewing throughout this track. Oh boy. Not sure if Michael Watts found himself a little loose coming out of turn 2 onto the back straightaway. Had to recover it. Definitely looked a little interesting to see there, though. But Michael Watts now going to be down on the inside of John Hastings in the 32 machine. And a pretty good run here, pretty good pace out of the 84 driver here in the late stage of this race. Now, oh boy, Dan Hill. That was quite the move there. I'm not sure if he just got a little unstable there, or if he was throwing a block, or what the case was, but I gotta say, Michael Watts doing a phenomenal job with 15 to go, utilizing what little tires he probably has left, as well as the rest of the field, showing some very good pace here on track with John Hinchcliffe here. But it definitely, I don't know, not enough to catch up with John Hinchcliffe at this moment, but enough to be able to get away from Hastings and the rest of the field here. So he's kind of stuck in limbo at this moment. So, I mean, Watts is just going to do what he possibly can here. A tough situation to be in, but I don't know, showing a little bit of life here and there in certain turns, but I don't know with 14 to go if it's going to be enough to make it work in the final stage of this race. As Eddie Jones, I mean, he continues to show his dominance here at Texas Motor Speedway, the 14 machine. Ever since he's taken the lead from Dwayne Mcarthur, it has been the 14 show ever since then. So I don't know if the T-Rex Games machine is going to see any significant fall off here before we see the checkered flag fly, and if Dwayne Mcarthur or Dakota Pischke are going to be able to capitalize on that here. You know, Dakota, for example, he has kind of just been lingering back here with Dwayne Mcarthur and Eddie Jones, not really getting too aggressive on these entries into these turns. You know, you could easily, any of these drivers could, you could make a dive into a turn. You could try and just overshoot. You know, you're braking a little, well, not necessarily braking. I think a lot of these drivers, they probably just lift off of the throttle. There's probably not a whole lot of braking happening unless you really need to stop the car or get it to slow down. But I lost my train of thought now. Anyhow here, folks. Pischke here. There it is. I found it again. So, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of charging, is what I'm going to say here, from Dakota at this point in the race. I think he might be waiting for when Eddie Jones and Dwayne Mcarthur potentially see a little bit more drop-off here. Again, this is all theoretical, at least for myself. I'm not 100% certain what's going to happen here at this point in time. So anything is possible with racing, and that's the beauty of this sport. So, oh boy, Hastings here, the 32 machine, the tied 10 machine, or tied 32 machine. Got a little loose there. Oh boy. The 58 of Kevin Strandberg trying to get down onto the inside, get past the 32 machine. Oh boy, no, not what we want to see with 9 laps left to go. Trouble with Kevin Strandberg and John Hastings. Let's go ahead and back this one up here a little bit, folks, because this was building up all the way out of turn 4. This has been building up for a minute now. So you can see Hastings down on the inside, a little hesitant as well, going onto the inside. Oh, boy. Now, I don't really know who's at fault here. Because it almost seems like you know what? It definitely seems like Kevin may have thought he had more speed to be able to get out ahead. That's an interesting situation to be in, folks. Maybe even they kind of interlocked with each other. What the fish says, looks like a racing incident. John held his line, at least what it looks like to me. Yeah, I mean, definitely doesn't seem like anyone there wasn't intentional by either one of those drivers, I don't think, but it was just very interesting to see that. I don't know. I mean, all race long we've seen drivers go side by side into the same turn, no problem, and for that to kind of happen here, I don't know. Definitely not an ideal situation to be put in as a driver, but it happens. Racing incidents do happen, and that's why they are called as such. So with 7 laps left to go here, our 5th caution of the race. Eddie Jones, Dakota Pischke going to be in the front row. Tom Ogle, Dwayne Mcarthur in the 2nd row. Brian Glass and John Hinchcliffe in our 3rd row. Michael Watson, Robert Guarsco in our 4th row. Joey Buscemi and Michael Dow in our 5th row. As the lights go off on the pace car here at Texas Motor Speedway, when we come back to green flag, it'll be 4 laps left to go for the Sunday Morning Cup Series. Eddie Jones, Dakota Pischke going to be battling for the lead spot when the green flag drops here. And, I mean, frankly, this whole field of, Tom Ogle, Dwayne Mcarthur, Brian Glass, John Hinchcliffe. I mean, each of these drivers is all going to be fighting for that lead spot here. And Eddie Jones having shown a really good pace here in that last run. Now that everyone is back on the same set of tires, everyone is on a fresh set of Goodyears, as well as fuel. It is essentially a mad dash until the end. Waiting now for the pace car to make its dive down into pit road as we come out of turn number 4. Into the Geico restart zone here at Texas Motor Speedway. The green flag will drop here once again. Eddie Jones off to a good start. Tom Ogle trying to get himself right behind the bumper of the 14 machine into turn number 1. Gonna come out of turn number 2 onto the back straightaway. Too wide for majority of this field as we come out onto the back straightaway, heading into turn number 3. A lot of great action happening throughout this field. Eddie Jones, Tom Ogle duking it out for the lead here today. The 14 machine, T-Rex Games machine, with 3 laps left to go, trying to give it his all here out of turn number 2 onto the back straightaway. Dakota Pischke falling back into 3rd place behind Tom Ogle here. Tom Ogle trying to get himself as far ahead of Dwayne Mcarthur as he possibly can, battling for that championship here in the Metro Ford Cup Series. Eddie Jones trying to come away with a win here tonight at Texas, as it is the playoffs. You can even see Brian Glass, the Kodak machine, up on the outside of Dwayne Mcarthur, trying to get up into the top. Well, he is in the top 5, trying to get his way up into the top 3. And Dwayne Mcarthur here in 5th place as well. Probably not going to be too satisfied to see Tom Ogle, his opponent for the championship, just ahead of him as the white flag comes out here at Texas Motor Speedway. A little bit of trouble. Smoke coming from the 8 machine of John Hinchcliffe, keeping it together. As we come out of turn number 2 and out onto the back straightaway, more battles happening throughout this field here as well. With the white flag here at Texas Motor Speedway. Coming out of turn number 4 onto the front curve. Tom Ogle a little unsteady. He goes across the checkered line, but barely. Dakota Pischke takes it across for 2nd place, with Tom Ogle in 3rd by inches. Dwayne Mcarthur takes it for 4th. Brian Glass in 5th to round out our top 5 here at Texas Motor Speedway. What a way to finish the race here with the Sunday Morning Cup Series, with Thomas Ogle just taking it sideways across the checkered line. And Dakota Pischke able to come home with 2nd here today. And Eddie Jones for the win in the 14 machine. Gonna find himself celebrating on the checkered line. Four wins to his name this season. Eddie Jones doing a phenomenal job here tonight at Texas Motor Speedway, as we're going to go ahead and get ready for our post-race interviews. First up, we are going to see Tom Ogle in the booth here today. We're going to go ahead and get ready for that here in just a second here, folks. Stand by. And first up, Tom Ogle up here in the booth here tonight, taking home 3rd place for tonight's race at Texas Motor Speedway. Tom, welcome to the booth. And I got to say, Tom, the first thing, Texas was an interesting race to witness, not only as a viewer, but I mean, as a commentator. There was a lot of action to see, a lot of drivers scrambling for positions, and just a lot of kind of uncertainty going into today's race. Now, for yourself, the 11 machine, I mean, we've kind of seen you almost, it felt like, kind of all over the top 10, fighting for multiple positions, and to come home with, I hate to say it, Tom, because you were so utterly close to coming home with second, and just that slide across the checkered line.
DQ'd. I was 18th. I got a 4X earlier when somebody drove into the back of me. So, yeah, you don't want to interview me.
Oh boy,
I stink. You got 3 other guys that deserve it more than I do.
Well, it appears that my finishing order here got a little bit changed up, Tom, so thank you for notifying me of that. I'm going to go ahead.
No worries. You're fine. Sorry. Have a good day.
You too, Tom. Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right. Well, it appears that I was a little bit off here. Our race results here. All right. Well, so our technical third place finisher here is going to be Brian Glass, coming home with third here tonight. Brian, welcome to the booth. I'm a little confuzzled up here making sure I got everyone up here in the right spots that they need to be in. But Brian, welcome up here to the booth tonight. It was a interesting race here at Texas. A lot of action, a lot of calamity, and kind of perfectly timed cautions that came out to allow the field to come through, get a fresh set of good years as well as fuel. Kind of, I don't want to say keep things even, but to keep things interesting. For yourself, though, the 87 machine, what was your plans? What was your expectations? And did things work out the way that you wanted it to?
Yeah. The car was fast all day long. It was loose, and the longer we ran, to me, it got looser and looser and looser. And I didn't realize how loose it was really going to get there. And finally, somebody would, about the time the tires wore out, somebody would lose it and wreck. The caution would come out. So they were perfectly timed. But that was a great race. Thanks to the OBRL, the old bastards. It was thanks to all the guys that come out each and every week. That's what makes it fun. They're just like me. I don't get top 3 every week, but I try. So they thanks to all the guys. Thanks for y'all in the booth. Thanks to all the families that let us do it. It's really enjoy it. It's good stuff out here.
Absolutely, love to hear it, and thank you for joining me up here in the booth tonight, Brian. It was great to have you, and hopefully get to see you back up here in the top 3 again, and continue to see success in the rest of the playoffs.
I appreciate it, man. Y'all have a great night, and good job up there, Eddie. Good win.
Absolutely. Have a great night, Brian.
You too.
Alrighty, folks. Up next is going to be Dwayne Mcarthur in the 83 machine, coming home with second place here tonight. Dwayne, sir, welcome to the booth. Well, congratulations on second here tonight. And, I mean, Dwayne, it is a very, very close battle between yourself and Thomas Ogle for the championship. I mean, just the level of competition that you guys have here in this series, it's just incredible to see, every single, it seems like every single restart there was someone else just given a run for the lead. And for yourself in the 83 machine, for a while there, you were seeing a lot of drivers just stacked up behind you, just getting as close as they could, getting right up on your bumper, trying to make a pass for what was the lead. Now, what was it like being in that situation and just seeming like you were just not even fazed by it?
Oh, I was fazed by it, but yeah, no, there's a ton of really, really good drivers in this league, and 5 or 6 of them were around me at any given time. They Eddie Jones filled my mirror for about 25 laps and kept the air off my spoiler. I burned up my rear tires doing so. I think they know that I just try to run a nice solid pace, and they're pushing me to make some mistakes. I was punching outside my weight class a little anyway all day, just trying to have a nice clean run. And some of these boys were really fast, Tom and Mike and Bull and Dan. I mean, Eddie, Dakota. I mean, there were so many guys that were so fast here. I just tried to look forward and not hit the wall, not spin it out, not make a mistake. So.
Well, Dwayne, I think you did a phenomenal job of that here tonight. And, to be able to come home with a second, and I would assume be able to keep yourself up there in the lead for the points championship, I would say it's a good night here at Texas. Now, looking forward into the rest of the playoffs, what's kind of your expectations and what's your goal ultimately?
Yeah, I accomplished my goal for this round. I have a bunch of bonus points, so I'm in a pretty good spot for this round of 3 races. My plan was to try to get in here and get 30 to 35 points, so that if something bad goes wrong at Talladega, I could kind of lean on my bonus points a little. I did that. Looked like I was headed to a second until that late caution, and then with Dakota and Tom getting DQ'd at the end, I ended up back in second. So it all kind of worked out, I think, the way it was supposed to go. So my plan is to go to Talladega, have some fun, and try not to bleed away too much. That because after that we go to the Roval. I like the Roval. I've had success there, but it's the Roval, and you never know. So just try to take it out of fate's hand and control my own destiny.
Absolutely, yeah. You can never go into into the Roval with too much certainty. But good luck to you going into that race, Dwayne, and hopefully be able to carry this success forward into the rest of this playoffs and be able to take home that trophy for the end of this season.
Hey, thanks, Mason. It's great to have you back. It's been a long time. I think almost a year.
It's been a while. It's definitely been a while.
Yeah, great to have you back. Really appreciate the job you guys do. I just want to say thanks to our sponsors as well. I want to say thanks to Metro Ford Chicago, emetroford.com with Patrick Milligan, and Victory Lane Sports and Kimball.net. Really can't run this league without our sponsors, and a really, really big thank you to everybody in this league that keeps showing up. This is the best place to race, and plan on doing so for a very long time.
Absolutely. Love to hear it. Dwayne Mcarthur, everyone, joining us up here in the booth, taking home second place and bringing us the action here for the Sunday Morning Cup Series. Dwayne, thank you for joining me up here tonight, and thank you for having me back for another lovely race here with OBRL.
Yeah, buddy. Hope to see you again soon.
Absolutely.
Have fun with Eddie Jones.
Well, let's bring him up here, and I'll have a good chat with him. All right, folks, that was Dwayne Mcarthur out of the booth here tonight. Last and certainly not going to be least here tonight, Eddie Jones, the 14 machine, taking home the win here tonight after, on a very, very impressive run in kind of the later half of the race here, Eddie. I would say the last 40 laps of the race, it was Dwayne Mcarthur that was leading, and all of a sudden the 14 T-Rex Games machine found itself up in front and just kind of blasting away from this field. It almost seemed like Dwayne Mcarthur had just burned through his rubber at that point in time. I mean, kind of walk me through your strategy going into Texas here tonight, Eddie, and tell me a little bit about what it was building up into that last kind of stint, if you will, before the checkered flag here tonight at Texas.
Well, you could drive the car real hard and get on the brakes in the corner and get it to turn and all that stuff, but I figured I was going to do a different strategy. I didn't use brakes at all, except just to stay off people in the corners, and then let people go and this and that. And, I always try to wait till the end of the race, and felt like the car got better the longer we run. The problem was we just weren't having long green runs there at first. And then we had one there that next to last caution, and I knew the car was real good. And so on that restart, I just got behind Dwayne, and we've raced so much together that I just stayed right behind him and tried to take the air off his spoiler to keep him loose as much as I could. And then when I felt like it was my time to go, I took off and tried to stay out there. Didn't want that last caution, that was for sure.
Yeah, that last caution definitely seemed like it threw a wrench in the gears for you. And a lot of not necessarily a lot of drivers here in the field. I think for a lot of other drivers, it was a godsend to them. But for yourself, you held your own extremely well. You kept yourself up there in the lead throughout those final few laps, even with all the pressure around you, and able to come home with the win here tonight at Texas. And, sitting, last time I looked, you were 4th place in the season standings, but I'm sure after tonight, you will see a little bit of a jump up into, a good fight for the championship here this season. Eddie, going into the rest of the playoffs, what are your expectations? What's kind of your goals? Are you planning to fight for the championship and come home with that trophy yourself, or are you kind of just up there doing the best that you can and seeing where you can put yourself this season?
Oh no, it's been a strategy the whole year. I've raced strategically the whole year, especially in the playoffs. I'm just trying to get in the top four, stay in the top four, try to get to Phoenix, and then go hard. I love short, flat track racing, so I think I got a good shot, and just trying to get there.
Absolutely. Well, you definitely showed you got what it takes here tonight at Texas, and carrying that forward into the rest of the playoffs. I definitely think you have what it takes to keep yourself in that top four, Eddie. And congratulations tonight on your win here. But before I let you go and celebrate your win here today, is anyone watching the broadcast, anyone at home or in the pit crew that you want to shout out and thank before you go?
Well, definitely want to thank my teammates. We race each other hard, but race each other with a lot of respect, and it was a fun race. Racing Ogle there at the end, racing everybody, just good group of guys to race with every week.
Love to hear it. Eddie, you've done a phenomenal job here tonight and put on a great performance along with OBRL and the Metro Ford Cup Series. Eddie, thank you for joining me up here in the booth tonight. Congratulations once again on your win, and good luck to you going into the rest of the playoffs, and hopefully get to see yourself fighting for that win.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a great one.
You too.
All righty, folks. That is going to conclude our coverage here today of the Sunday Morning Cup Series with the Metro Ford Cup Series with Old Bastards Racing League. My name is Mason Heimball with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action here tonight, 1080p, 60 frames a second. Thank you all for tuning in and joining me here today, and in place of James East, who normally covers the action here on Sunday mornings, but he is currently, hopefully, maybe, perhaps, racing at this point in time for the 24 hours of Lemons, assuming that they were able to get a hoopty up and running for the race. Anyhow, Eddie Jones, Dakota Pischke, no, that is incorrect. Eddie Jones, Dwayne Mcarthur, Brian Glass coming home with the top three here today. Maria, if you are still watching, no, you are not the only one that is confused, but that's A-okay. That is going to be all here today, folks, for the race here at Texas Motor Speedway. Thank you all for tuning in and watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Catch all the action that we have here 7 days a week on Team Goon Squad. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you all next time. Same time, same place.